Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited to be back here today with you guys for another fun video. I decided to give you guys another fun video before I get into the more educational stuff in the weeks to come, and I'm gonna start mixing them between like fun and educational, so you're getting a fun-educational kind of thing on this channel. See what I did there? Okay, so as you can probably tell, I'm going to be giving you guys the top 5 favorite TV shows that I watch all the time or have been watching recently. And I'm going to be splitting them up between my actual, like, decent content shows and my guilty pleasure TV shows. So if you like to see the top 10, because 5 plus 5 equals 10, the top 10 shows that I love to watch, please keep watching this video. Because I'm a huge superhero fan, it only makes sense that my number 5 actual favorite TV show is Agent Carter. It centers around Agent Peggy Carter, who was a member at the time, S.H.I.E.L.D. was the SSR, and it's set in Marvel Universe, so all of these terms I'm using are for superhero purposes only. Forgive me if you don't understand them. But she's an agent working in the SSR, and everything starts to fit together because of Agent Carter, I personally feel. Not to mention Hayley Atwell is also a very talented actress whom I have taken a personal liking to because of her other work in the UK and other TV shows that I've seen her in, and she's pretty awesome. So I highly recommend this show if you're super into superheroes and Captain America, etc., because that show, Agent Carter, helps to tie all of that in together. So my top 5 favorite guilty pleasure TV show is Hit the Floor on VH1. Now, I usually stay away from VH1 because I think that its content is super dramatic, but as of late, I've been really getting into this super trashy guilty pleasure reality TV shows, and all of their trailers just look so interesting because they're over the top and everything, and I'm just like, yes! It's about a girls' dance team for a national basketball team. It's completely fictional. They're called the Los Angeles Devils, and so the dance team is called the Devil Girls. And it's super dramatic and really awesome, sort of. It's pretty bad, but I like it because it's so dramatic. And not to mention the two dance scenes per episode, they're not bad. The concepts are really cool, the costumes are really awesome, the entire cast is absolutely gorgeous, so I mean, it's not too bad on the eyes. My number 4 favorite TV show has got to be Girls. It is centered around 4 early to mid-20s young girls who are, you know, out of college and getting into the real world and deciding what it is that they're going to do with their lives. And the reason why I got totally hooked was because the main character, played by the amazing writer, actress, director, hodgepodge of things person, Lena Dunham, her character, within the first 10 minutes of the pilot, got cut off by her parents, like financially, was no longer going to be financially supported by her parents. And immediately I was like, oh my god, how's she going to survive? You know, because it's one of those super relatable things where young adults who are supposed to know what they're going to do with their lives tend to not know what they're going to do with their lives at this point in time. And so Girls helps to decide, or helps to show how these 4 young women are deciding how to go about their lives and what to do. And I am super excited to share the show with you guys because the last season is airing at some point in February. I think by the time this video comes out in like 2 weeks or so. So like February 20 something. But I've really been super into it, and I'm excited for the show to come to a close because as shows usually go, they tend to trend upwards and then they kind of decline a little bit. So maybe this will be Girls picking up one last time before they leave the TV. My top 4 favorite guilty pleasure show has got to be Revenge, which came on ABC. It's now done, but throughout its course, it ran a pretty good course, I would say. Emily Van Camp stars in Revenge, and it's basically about how her character is going back to the Hamptons, buys out her childhood home, and is avenging her father's death because her next door neighbors, the Graysons, had this super convoluted scheme, plot, ploy, plan to get rid of Emily's father, David Clarke, and yes, we share the same last name, so that's also why I was super drawn to the show. And it's super dramatic, super action-packed, and really awesome, and I think that you guys should check it out. It's currently on Netflix and super bingeable, so do it if you're bored. My number 3 favorite actual TV show has got to be Luther. Not just because I love Idris Elba, but also because it's Idris Elba, the BBC, action, grit. It's just really great. It's a crime drama that's centered around DCI, or Detective Chief Inspector John Luther, played by the one and only Idris Elba, and it's about how his life as DCI in a police station in the UK has affected all of these crimes around him, because essentially I would say all of these crimes are happening because of him, because he is, of course, the common denominator. The show wouldn't be called Luther if it wasn't about him, but also because in some way each of the perpetrators, or each of the masterminds behind the crimes, have been in tune to John and in tune to Luther, and know basically of him, and know that he's like the current super DCI of the... I didn't really explain that too well, but it's really interesting. It's got a lot of action. It's also really cool for the mind, because you can see if you can figure out the show before it actually finishes, and I always find myself like jaw-dropped. I think the show is personally jaw-dropping because it's so interesting and it really pulls you in. So check it out. It's also on Netflix, and if you don't watch it because I told you to, you should watch it because Idris Elba is absolutely amazingly talented. My number 3 guilty pleasure show has got to be Gossip Girl. It's not number 1, and I'll explain that in a little bit, for a number of reasons, but I have seen Gossip Girl from top to bottom probably 3 times through, and most people will watch Friends when they're like doing homework, or, you know, just like don't know what to watch, but for me it's Gossip Girl. I love the drama, I love the scandalousness, and the... oh my god, it's just so good. But it's centered around Gossip Girl, which is a anonymous gossip site where members of the Upper East Side, or anyone who's really into the society, sends in anonymous tips about the main characters and says like what they're up to, or, you know, who they've been sleeping with, or like super scandalous stuff, you know. So that's my guilty pleasure. My number 2 favorite actual TV show has got to be The Wire. Now, that show started in, when, 2003 maybe? Also has Idris Elba in it. Yes, I know, I'm slightly obsessed with him. Who wouldn't be? But it's another crime TV show that's set in Baltimore, and it's super gritty. If you haven't heard about it, highly recommend. It's on HBO. It does require a certain pass. I feel like it may be on Netflix. I'm not too certain. I can definitely check on that for you. But it's super gritty. It's another crime drama about a drug lord played by Idris Elba, of course, and how everybody in the police station, all of the investigators, detectives, that's what I was looking for, where all the detectives are sort of looking for a way to bring him down. And so the entire, I believe there are 8 seasons, 7 or 8 seasons, it's just about, you know, how they're going to bring it down, and it's just filled with like a bunch of convoluted nonsense, but it's just so good and super gritty, not to mention very action-packed. The accents are a little strong, and yes, the content is also very strong. Viewer discretion is advised, but if you're into that kind of thing, super gritty, more mature nature of TV show, then I highly recommend it. My number 2 guilty pleasure TV show has got to be The Vampire Diaries. Now, I started out genuinely liking this TV show probably in 7th grade when it first started, which was probably 2011, I want to say. And I, over the years, with me getting older and it becoming not really sillier, but with it just progressing, I figured it's more of a guilty pleasure because it's about vampires and werewolves and witches and just the supernatural. So it's a really, if you haven't heard of it, it airs on the CW. Now it's on Friday nights, but it used to be on Thursday nights at 8 on the CW. And it's really fun. It's recently has gotten super intense. The initial lead, Nina Dobrev, left last season, so they kind of had to kill off her character. It's not a surprise. I'm not spoiling it for you because it was all over the news. If you didn't, or not the news, but like it was all over social media. If you didn't hear about it, like, I mean, sorry. But it's gotten really good this season specifically because they've the writers and executive producers, especially my fave Julie Plec, has been, they've all been scrounging to find really good material to kind of make viewers want to watch it. And personally, with Nina gone, even though I love you, Nina Dobrev, it's been even better than I've ever expected, because they're just throwing in everything they possibly can and making every possible character unhappy, which, yes, is not the best thing, but it's the best thing for me as a devoted viewer who wants to come back every single week and watch another episode. Now, my number one favorite TV show has got to be HBO's The Leftovers. The Leftovers is it's a satirical take on the Christian notion of the rapture, and in The Leftovers, it's basically about, of course, those people who have been left over from what they call the departure. And the departure is just the actual event of the rapture where a bunch of people randomly disappeared. And over the past, there's been 2 seasons so far. The 3rd season is coming up later on this year, 2016, and it's going to be really interesting because it's centered around a family called the Garveys, led by Justin Theroux, who actually does a very amazing job pulling all of these different emotions to his character. But it's about the Garveys who have moved to, season 2 is about how their family moves to a new city in Texas that has not been touched by the departure, and how how that world starts to change. But it's really interesting, and it's a very difficult concept to explain, so if you want me to explain that a little bit more, I will at a later date. Just leave a comment down below and I will do that. But it's super, super intense, and it just leaves you thinking, because I remember there were actually a couple episodes that I had to watch once or twice, that I had to watch like twice or 3 times, because they were just so deep and really into content that I just had to watch them over again. Again, it is a more mature TV show, so viewer discretion is of course advised, but if you're really into stuff that's super gritty, definitely put The Leftovers on your list. And for my final guilty pleasure, I wouldn't be honest with myself if I didn't admit that I love Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I watched it in secret in about 7th grade, around 7th grade, because, you know, I was one of those kids who was like, oh my god, this show is so trashy, I would never watch it ever, I just would never even, it's just so bad. But then, as I got older, I started wanting to see more of really trashy television as a more of an escape from, like, reality, because of all the super gritty and heavy content that is just plaguing our society recently. And Keeping Up with the Kardashians is one of my favorite ways to do that, because if you don't know what the Kardashians are about, they are a family filled with drama and idiocy and randomness, and they're constantly in the news, and I don't know why, because they're just, personally, I don't find them that interesting. Of course, they do lead really interesting lives because they're famous and whatever for random reasons, mostly because the late patriarch, Robert Kardashian, was O.J. Simpson's lawyer back in the day, and that is why they became famous, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, because it wasn't about them, it was about the fact that Robert was, you know, defending O.J. Simpson. But anyway, I love it because it's super trashy and super funny, and I watch it just for when I'm just bored and I just want to pick myself up and I just want to laugh. I always watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I don't watch it like every Sunday. I'm not one of those devoted people, but I do watch it whenever I feel like I need a laugh. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been my top 5 favorite actual and guilty pleasure TV shows. If you want to see more content like this, please give this video a thumbs up or leave a comment down below. I'm super excited to give you guys more content that is varied in educational and fun, aka fun-educational. So please come back to this channel next Sunday at 2 p.m. Bye!